Good afternoon. Today we are doing PO16. I can solve equations using addition and subtraction. We are continuing with that algebraic expression work that we've been doing the last few days. Even though there is so much more to algebra than solving for a variable, it's what most people think algebra is all about. When you tell people that you are in pre-algebra, most people will say, I was solving for X. I remember solving for those letters. That's not what it's all about. There is more to it, but it shouldn't be painful. We have three ways that you could think about solving a basic equation. Use whichever method works best for you. We've talked a lot about that in math, on how there's different ways to get to the same answer. Figure out which way you're most comfortable with. The first way is using logic. What is the expression as a question? So if we have n plus 6 equals 18, we could write it as a question. What number plus 6 equals 18? So what number plus 6 equals 18? Put your hands up. There are different ways we can do this. So that's one way, putting it as a question. Another way is the opposite operations. The opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. Subtracting 6 from both sides of the equal sign will get the variable by itself. So again, we have n plus 6 equals 18. So then if we want to subtract 6 from both sides, 6 minus 6 zeroes it out, so we're just left with n. And then 18 minus 6 gives us that 12. So if you're subtracting from one side, you subtract whatever you do, just like with fractions, whatever you do to the numerator, you do to your denominator. Whatever you do to one side of your equal sign, you do to the other side. Yes?
I have learned to do, like, you would do 18 minus 6. That's what I have learned.
18 minus 6. So you can write it right underneath it, but what you do to one side, you do to the other. So you didn't physically write 6 minus 6, you did it in your head. And you got the n by itself. 18 minus 6 is that 12. So what you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other side. So the third way of doing it is fact families. So think about the fact families with our numbers. If we have 12, think about those fact families. 3 times 4, 4 times 3 times 4. Wait, no, that's factor buddies. Fact family would be 3, 4, and 12. 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 3 is 12, 12 divided by 3 is 4, 12 divided by 4 equals 3. You know how we did those fact families throughout the years? So now we have a fact family with our equation. We can have n plus 6 equals 18. You could have 6 plus n equals 18. And you could have 18 minus n equals 6. And 18 minus 6 equals n. So it's the same idea with those fact families. 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 minus 1 equals 2, 3 minus 2 equals 1. So we're doing it now with that equation. Different ways you could write the equation. So it's just figuring out your different fact families. So as with any equation, once you find a value for the variable, plug it into the original equation to make sure it works. Make sure you did your math correctly. So up here we said we subtracted out our 6, n plus 6 minus 6, and then 18 minus 6, and we got n equals 12. So let's go back to our original equation. and see if 12 works. Is this a true equation? 12 plus 6 equals 18. Yes, that works. This is the best way to check to see if you're doing it correctly. Go back and plug that variable value in. Is it a true equation? Does it work? So when we come to that test and you're doing your work, don't just think, oh, I just want to be done with the test. I just want to be done. Take your value that you found, plug it back into the equation, and see if you did it correctly. See if you're getting the right answer. Always double check your work, especially on a test. So let's look at what we have at the bottom of this page. Using two methods from above, each time, solve for the variable in the equation. So you need to do two methods. You could do the logic, you could do the opposite operations, you could do a fact family. So what does that look like? Well, if we're gonna do the opposite operations, you would subtract 8 and subtract 8. So then you'd have n equals, well, 8 minus 8 is 0. 25 minus 8 is 17. So that's one way of doing it. You need to do it two ways. That was one. Another way of doing it, let's say we want to do the fact family. So instead of 8 plus n equals 25, we could say 25 minus 8 equals n. So 25 minus 8, we know, is 17. So that's two ways of solving your equation. They're very similar because we're using the same numbers and the same variable. So they're very similar, but it's doing it two different ways. So you're going to do your work on the front page here. You're going to solve it two ways. And then when we turn the page, you're going to solve it just doing which way you're most comfortable with. So you're just going to solve it with what works for you. So on page 32, do which way works for you. The front page, you need to do it two of the ways. The second page, do it one way. And we are going to sign off of the video. Those watching, have a good day.